son watches and he's into hockey,
Cool.
so just, explaining things in a short way, kind of would
Good
kind of
deal.
help. I think. So,
What's up, everybody?
oh, are we on?
Yeah,
Yep.
we are on. I was gonna wait for William to do
Oh,
the intro.
well, hey guys, how's it going? Welcome down to the bleachers. I'm William Yanish. We got Chris Ransom here and the new guy, Ron Mont. Well,
New guy.
old guy,
Ron's
new
a
guy,
veteran. I don't know if
good
it's
guy.
New old guy.
Yeah,
New old guy.
old school new guy.
Yeah, all right, I'll take that. All right, I'll take that. Whatever.
but yeah, everyone, we're having the offensive night of ice versus field, and I think this is going to be good. We've got Caleb Malhortra on uh,
For
coming
the
up
ice.
for the ice, and we
Yeah,
have
I'm pulling up
Sadiq.
Caleb Malhorta on. I'm on Huddle right now. I'm trying to. I've typed in the name in the search engines. Nothing's coming up. Are we gonna have to watch both games on YouTube? I really don't want to do that, but it's like it's. I've got the correct login information. I was able to log in successfully, but whenever I type the search bar, nothing shows up. It
Yeah,
just freezes. That is first time that's ever happened while using Huddle.
Oh,
well, I've got my notes here, so I mean that's up to you. I mean, we
I think I'd
really don't
rather
have
do
to
it that
use.
way. I think I'd rather do it that way, Chris.
What?
That way we don't have to worry about the YouTube thing, and we can just.
Yes. So you don't want to have to watch film. You just want to talk about what you've seen.
I've already watched. I've watched enough
I've
film
watched.
on him.
I've watched film on him too. So because I was
Uh,
when I did the draft prospect hockey 2 round mock draft earlier this year, I watched some tape on Malhorta. And yes, he checks off a lot of boxes. Wasn't really a guy on a lot of people's radars at the beginning of the year, but when O'Brien got injured, he came in, took over the line one center job, and the rest is history.
yeah, I mean, this is my premier scouting hockey players right now. But Malhortra, I mean, he is a really smart kid. I mean, coach's son. That goes back to how I preach about these guys like Rocky Lombardi, like Garrett Nussmeyer, and yeah, no, that this kid, I mean, he's definitely good and he's disciplined. I mean, he skates really well. Fits into some small spots and takes advantage of them. And I mean, the one thing that I'm impressed with it. How tall is he? Oh, 6'1", 182. And being 17 years old, he's still gonna obviously pack on a few pounds. But
Yep.
he kind of plays smaller at times, but he doesn't let the bigger guys take advantage of him. And that's the thing that I really respect about his game and what I watched. You know, I mean, what do you think, Ron?
Wow, man, that was really astute assessment of a really good hockey player. So, some of the things that I look at for a hockey player are how do they play without the puck, right? And how do they act when they're not playing with the puck? You know, when,
That's
are they lollygagging back there in the back end? Are they skating to their spot? Right? Okay. How are they playing in that situation? How do they play when they're in those high pressure situations? When it's a defensive player, you got an offensive rush coming at you, or if it's an offensive player, you're on the rush. What's the first thing you're doing when you cross over that blue line? Well, you ask the kids that. Hey, what's the first thing you're thinking about when you cross that blue line? Are you looking at the pass? Are you looking, you know what I mean? Guys that have that it factor, right? They just do things without thinking. You know what I mean? Like you look at the Celebrinis, and they're just doing things without thinking. Okay, and when you get to that point, okay, that's when I think you've mastered a portion of that skill. There's a lot of skills out there that these kids have to master. And looking at Malhorta, you're right. He's got the size. It's very difficult for a guy that has size and strength, weight. It's very hard for a guy that in juniors, once you get to the next level, can you use that to your advantage, or are guys going to use that to your disadvantage? How, you know what I mean? How are you going to use your size? And this is the thing with these kids because they're 17 years old. You know what I mean? And how are you going to use your size to your advantage? Are you going to use it to shield the puck away from other players, right? Or are you going to use your size to bang bodies? Okay? I want to see a guy how he skates. I want to see how he winds up and shoots. Okay? I want to see if he can shoot while he's skating around, or does he have to stop? Does he have to get down on one knee? Blah 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 blah. I also like what you said about Caleb as well. He does have that hockey IQ, that smarts. He plays really well. He plays very good positionally. He's a good 200-foot player. I think personally, Chris, you might disagree with me on this. I don't know, but I think he's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft this year.
I was originally going to put Keaton Verahoff at 3, but I just read a report from the Vancouver Canucks saying that if they lose out on the lottery, they are going to take Malhorta at 3. And the reason that's significant, Lego Rocks Geo, a Canucks YouTuber, reported this earlier today too. And the reason that's significant is his father is Manny Malhorta, who led the Abbotsford Canucks to the Calder Cup in the AHL last year.
Yeah, buddy.
So,
so
I think Vancouver,
dude, that's a great scoop, man.
I think Vancouver probably does have Malhorta ahead of Verahoff on their board, even though Verahoff for me is probably number 2. And I would probably put Malhorta at 3 if I were building a board, but I think Stenberg is going to go in the top 3 or top 2. I think Stenberg is going to go in the top 2.
Well, it depends. So, it depends if Chicago gets any one of those top 3 picks. You know what I mean?
I think Chicago would take. They have stability at center, but they love guys from Brantford. Kyle Davidson loves drafting guys from Brantford. Right. I mean, he's taken a player on Brantford in each of the last 4 NHL drafts, Rod. I think that says
it does.
A lot.
It does, but I also think that's going to throw, depending on who does what, who gets where in the draft for this year. You know what I'm saying?
I think Malhorta is going to go somewhere in the top 4. I just don't know exactly where he's going to end up yet, or what the lottery is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because right now, I'm looking at Tankathon's updated mock. They have Malhorta going 5th to Toronto right now, Verahoff going 4th, and Chase Reed going 3rd to Calgary. I think Verahoff will go 3rd if Calgary's picking 3rd. But again, I think right now McKenna probably going to be 2 pending the lottery results. And then number 3, it's going to depend. Is it a team that needs defense? It's Verahoff. If it's a team that needs offense, it's Malhorta. That's where I think we're at.
Okay. Wow.
Because there's so many good defensemen in this draft.
Yeah.
And they've got Lawrence going 7th and York going 8th. But I think there are more good defensemen in this draft versus centers. But it's like York, Lawrence, and Malhorta are the 3 centers that could play on the top line one day. But they're probably most of them are probably going to start out on the second line. It just depends. If Toronto gets Malhorta and Austin Matthews leaves, Malhorta could be the line 1 guy in a few years when Matthews leaves. if he leaves. I don't know if he will leave or not.
Interesting way to
I'm
look
not going
at
to
it.
speculate on that right now. I'm not going to speculate on that
Yeah,
right
right.
now.
No.
It doesn't feel appropriate to speculate on that at this point. But I'm saying if he did leave, I think Malhorta would become the line one guy there down the road. So same way Messier became the line one guy in Edmonton after Gretzky left.
Wow. Okay. Huh.
But yeah,
I don't know, man.
I
it's
think
what's really kind of see. This is what, and this is why I don't do a mock draft, because I don't know what teams are going to be in what position. You know what I mean? And
I do mock draft before the lottery, and that's in the preseason. If there's like an Olympic break or there's a Four Nations tournament, I'll do a mock at the midseason during that point. And then I'll do the third mock after that for because I don't like doing mock drafts during the ongoing hockey regular season until we have the final results. And then even then you need the lottery drawings to determine.
Right. So, I mean, to sit here and speculate on where some of these guys are going to potentially go is all fine and great. You know what I mean? But I think you're still looking at a first round player here with Malhorta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see other guys kind of.
I think the Rangers should get him if they pick third. I think the Rangers should get him. As much as I like Mika Zibanejad, I don't really see him as a dominant first line center. I think Malhorta can be that down the road.
Well, he's also going to age out soon too.
Yeah,
Zibanejad. You know what I mean? Right? He's
liked Zibanejad, but I've never really viewed him as that dominant first line center. He's steady, but he's not a dominant first line center. Like Malhorta's a ball of energy. Think prime Macklin Celebrini or prime Madonna. I think that's the floor ceiling, but I'm not sure I'm not sure if Malhorta's closer to Celebrini or Madonna as far as player comp, because both those comps feel a little extreme to a point. But that's what I see. That's what I see in terms of the talent, in terms of the skill set.
Wow.
Yeah, you're sitting there talking about a ball of energy, man. I happen to pull that up. That
he's born June 2nd, 4 days before your birthday, William. So yeah, he's a ball of energy.
Steve Nash is his uncle. That's
man. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Are things starting to make sense? I mean, no, this kid, his dad's a coach, and his uncle, one of the best point guards in NBA history. I mean, this kid, like I said, how you started out talking about watching what they're doing when they don't have the puck, when they don't have the ball. That's something that I really have to talk about coming up with our next Sadiq. But it's really interesting because oh man, my brain just went to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was talking about, I mean, Malhotra, or however you say his name, sorry, coming out of my mouth. I mean, he is always ready. He's generally always in position. I always saw him, and that's what I concentrate on is just watching the player when I'm watching film. That's why it's so interesting when another player pops up on film, because then, when that other player keeps popping up, that they're good. That there's not too many of them, but I have found some excellent players, doing that. But like I said, this kid is just so smart, and he's always, like I said, he's always ready. He's always open, like 7-Eleven. Maybe that's what we'll start calling him.
There you go. Okay.
But I mean, he's obviously going to get a little bit bigger. Like, I mean, males do grow until they're 25. So
right. He might get an inch. He might get 10, 15 pounds.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's about what I was thinking. He'd probably come out about 200 pounds, about 6'2", and he'd be
That's a good size. Yeah, that's a good size. Good
Yeah,
center size for the NHL.
you can still play, you know, your size against some of these guys, but then, you know, you can still fit through some small openings, you know, and get to some places. You know, it's pretty good size, you know, and this isn't, you know, football where we're always talking about some of these guys and prototypical quarterbacks and such, you know, that are so big. But no, I think this kid really has a bright future. I mean, no matter where he ends up, you know.
Yeah, okay. So I asked some people on X. So Manny, the coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, married Steve Nash's sister. That's how they're related. That's how Steve Nash and is related to Caleb Malhorta.
Oh wow, there you
Um,
go.
That is from Karam Bassi in the Draft Prospect Hockey Private Group. Good nugget
There you
there.
go. That's awesome stuff, man. See, that's why I love this man, because I love talking about these young players. I love talking about, you know, what these guys are capable of doing at the age that they're at now. And then when you watch them progress through, you know, when you watch them play their junior league, and then you watch them play in college, and then you watch them sign their ELC, or you watch them play in junior, get drafted, and then play right away. I mean, you know, like being able to see players to that level. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just about what the guys are doing all the time on the ice as well. It's what they do off the ice, because that's where you learn about where their work ethic is, right? And the good ones, the really good players, have that constantly doing something to improve, constantly working on their craft. You know what I mean? And it's the same across the board in any sport, right? It on in any sport, you're the good ones are constantly working on things, constantly doing things to make themselves better. You know, there's no off season,
yeah.
right? You know what I mean? And they'll hire trainers, or they'll get involved with associations that help them learn video, or the nutritionists, and you know the whole nine. I mean, it's amazing what these kids, and they are kids, what they're exposed to, okay, and how they're treated, so that they can go play hockey or football or baseball or soccer
Well,
or
that's
whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, all right.
that's the one thing where you know, this kid, with his dad being a hockey player, you know, he was bred into this or bred for this. You know, I mean, this is always what their dad, you know, envisioned for them, you know, coming up. And obviously you always want your kids to be, you know, better than you were at something. You know, it was like when we had Rocky Lombardi on and talking to his dad Tony. You know, I mean, Tony was a former football player, and just they get that work ethic like you're talking about. You know, it's Bill Parcells one time said, you either get better or you get worse. No one stays the same. You know,
I mean, you know, truer words.
yeah, for
You know.
sure.
Yeah, I'm watching that guy. I'm watching some Instat, but I'm not watching Malhorta. I'm watching this other guy. There's a player in this year's NHL draft named Alexander Karmanov from Russia.
Yes.
He is 7 foot, 265 pounds. He's a defenseman, but he's 7 foot. He's actually a really good skater. I've watched 2 of his shifts versus Sudbury. I'm impressed with what I see so far.
He is a Prospect Watch alum.
Wow,
And
I did
then,
not know that.
Yeah, Alex Karmanov, 7'1".
Yeah.
do they have to
Right?
like get him like a longer hockey shake? I mean,
Yes.
also, I really wouldn't want to, get in his way and have one of those skates go over the top of you.
So what's really scary,
I was 18.
right? What's really scary, right, is seeing him a year ago, being that tall a year ago, playing against kids that I'm not kidding you, barely come to the top of his chest. Like he's just that much taller than everybody else. Like, all right.
Just don't get in his way, man. Just don't get.
He was a OHL player last year. This year he made the jump to the OHL.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something, man. This kid he's got it going on, man. He really, I know we're supposed to be talking about, Caleb.
I know. I would love to see Stars get him in the second round because with him, you'd have Bixel, you'd have Bixel, you'd have Thomas, Tyler. Well, he wouldn't play in the NHL next season, but you'd have 2 6'7" defensemen for years to come if you put this kid next to Bixel. It just wouldn't even be fair at that point.
But I'm going to tell you right now, though, man, he is definitely going to make an impact in the NHL for sure, and he's another one of those kids where he's got that work ethic, where all he's doing is looking to improve, And one of the first things that he said to me was, in his very broken English, yeah, I have to improve my skating, but this is what I'm doing to work on it. By the way, hop on over to Prospect Watch on the YouTube channel there, R&J Media's YouTube channel, and check that out. Alex Karmanoff, man, he's a Prospect Watch alum. Check that interview out.
I'm gonna have to watch that interview because I just began watching his tape. Like I've watched like 1 or 2 shifts while we're on the air. I'm not gonna go into further detail yet, but like I'm gonna definitely check out the Karmanov interview because I'm looking at him and saying, all right, if you don't have a first round pick and you need a defenseman, that is a guy you should pick. I don't think he's going to be there when Colorado picks at round 3. If they pick at 96, they don't have the first or second round pick. I think he's going to get pushed up simply due to his size and due to the fact that his skating's improved. But if he's there in the later rounds, he's going to be a steal for whoever gets him. But yeah, let's get to Kenyon Sadiq. Nice. Well, I don't want to ruin. Let's get Oregon tight end. I got 15 out of 30 routes on the route tree. He's my number 1 tight end in this draft. Wasn't initially, but as the process evolved, he sort of asserted himself. I watched the Rose Bowl against Texas Tech. I saw enough from that game and the other games this season to make him end.
For sure. I mean, he's moving up my list a little bit. He's not number 1. I mean, this guy, there's this giant misconception that he's some kind of crazy vertical threat, and I just saw somebody talking on there on YouTube and in the comments saying, oh yeah, he can't block for and this and that. And I'm like, dude, blocking is his best skill. I mean, if somebody comes out and starts talking about his vertical skills and his 4.39 speed, I mean, this is a guy watching him up against Penn State. I mean, the one thing I was really missing on that film was, he doesn't have very good, short area burst. He doesn't have a very good acceleration. I mean, he is a blocking guy who, I mean, he has a mean streak as a blocker to where
if he goes to the right team as a tight end too, and he's not thrown into the fire like a Baltimore, that's probably where he'll have the most success. If he goes to a team where,
and that's the thing, I mean, some team is going to jump up there and grab him and feel like they have gold, but this is still a guy, obviously, and I happened to mention that. I was like, he only ran about half the routes on the route tree, and like you just said, 15 is about right, you know. And what he was doing, the one thing that concerned me was what you were talking about, Ron, and what they're doing when the play doesn't involve them. And a few times versus Penn State, he was kind of wandering around like he was lost and running some of those routes kind of half speed. And it was like, I mean, that's not showing very well, you know? I mean, I didn't see that, so much before, but now that, I've got a feel for his tape and everything else, man, I mean, he obviously comes out there to play for Oregon is like, Shanahan with his no block, no rock thing. To play for Dan Lanning, it's about the same thing. You have to block to get the rock. And, what we watched versus Penn State was almost about as close as going to get, to NFL quality talent, versus that defense. And, I mean, but like I said, I was looking for that acceleration and wasn't there. And he obviously plays bigger than he is. He's only 6'3", 240, but the only thing really saw, I mean, he had one or two catches that was over 10 yards, he ran a reverse and versus Penn State, which was bottled up. I think he actually lost a yard on that one. But, I mean, I am so critical on tight ends, because, well, obviously that's what I specialize in. And, he's gonna fit somewhere around tight end 3. Eli Stowers is the receiver that everyone thinks Sadiq is, but he isn't so much of he's a receiver. He's a flex tight end. He's not a true Y. He's not an inline blocker. And so I can't really, Sadiq is taking his spot, like I said, about tight end 3 right in front of Tanner Koziol. And, I mean, I think that there's too much hype, too much of that false hype, and that
Yeah.
it's a career killer, And
I agree. I saw some of those same things when I watched the tape on him. Was some of those, I don't want to say, something terrible, but excuse me, lackadaisical things.
and
Excuse
that
me,
is something
away from the play. Like when he's not involved, are you finishing your blocks? Are you staying with your block? Are you know what I mean? I saw a couple of those plays where we didn't see that. I didn't see a problem with his blocking at all. I think that's where he's going to catch on as, like you said, one of those flex type flanker backs where he might act like as a fullback, or he might maybe act like as a guy that's going to come out of the backfield, or he might be a lead block, or he might be what do they call that? He's eligible, he reports as eligible, kind of, you know what I mean? Like I just see him kind of catching on to something like that. A special teams gunner, maybe, but you're right. He doesn't have that, Pat Fryermuth type of, he's not really, he doesn't have a lot of that body control. He's not going to go up and catch it. You know what I mean? He's got a little bit of size, but he's not going to go up and catch the combat balls. You know what I mean? He's just not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? And he's very heavy footed. Even though he's got a pretty good 40 time, he's very heavy footed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why with what you said, Chris, and then you also pointed out as well too. He's not running the full tree, right? So if you're not
Yeah,
running
the
the full
last few
tree,
years
that
we've
makes
had a
you
bunch
kind of
of guys that
heavy-footed.
ran that full 30 routes in the route tree. Brock Bowers,
Yeah.
Tyson Loveland, Tyler Warren. We've been spoiled the last few drafts. We don't have that guy this year. Do I think he's the best route runner in this group? Yes, but he's not the best by a wide margin. I think the next best tight end I have for route running is 11 routes, Max Clare, and then I've got Eli Stowers at 10 routes.
Wow.
But there's a lot of good blocking tight ends this year. There's not a lot of good route tree guys, but there's a lot of good blocking tight ends. I think William would agree with me on that. It's a great year for blocking tight ends if you need a blocking tight end.
Oh yeah, there's a few, and that's something we're going to talk about next week is these tight ends. But between like Sam Roush, between Dallin Bentley, between those guys are better blockers than they are receivers. And there's obviously some unfounded something with it goes my brain again. But some unfounded hype with some of these guys like Sam Roush. Some of these, oh yeah, he's gonna sneak up there. Oh yeah, this and that. But Sam Roush, he didn't impress me at all. But like I said, we'll get more into that next week. I mean, obviously, like Chris said, we've been spoiled. And obviously with like last year, I mean, and between Aronde Gadsden and Harold Fannin and Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren. Last year's class was just special. I mean, absolutely special.
Right.
And that's something that's really missing here. Well, besides the Eli Stowers, I mean, he did very well at Vanderbilt, and he did it against SEC competition. And
I mean, that speaks to that level, when you play against that kind of competition, you know what I'm saying? I really feel I could be way off on this. You guys are, the experts when it comes to draft and things of that nature, but this year feels a lot like a wide receiver heavy draft. There seems like there's quite a bit of offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback in some defensive backs in this draft. I like the wide receiver pool in this draft. I was a little bit taken aback by the lack of talent in the tight end pool. I mean, you guys rattled off some of those guys, and I was like, oh, wow, this guy was good. And then you look at the tape, and you're like, oh, well, no, not so much.
That's how I was with a player like Dallin Bentley. I mean, dude runs like crap, man. But another one, he played for Kyle Whittingham, and no block, no rock. And that's where he's going to fit in as is a blocking tight end.
He does run a great streak route. Like, if you want a deep threat for your vertical offense, Dallin Bentley's a good fit. But I feel like that's all he does is screen passes.
One trick pony, yeah.
And if you can game plan around a tight end, and the only thing the tight end knows how to do is screen passes and streak routes where they run deep, straight towards the end zone.
Yeah,
you can game plan around that very easily at the NFL level.
That is for sure, and I mean, it's one of those things, and obviously this is a year that, my Niners need to figure out what they have in store for the future, at tight end. George Kittle is already, like 31, 32 years old.
I don't know if they'll be able to get a tight end in this draft. No picks in rounds 5 through 7, and the value really isn't there.
Man. And that's the problem, whether they end up, we're talking about Oscar Delp, and that is a guy that kind of reminded me of a George Kittle, because George Kittle coming out of college wasn't wasn't
After
a
Max
receiver.
Blair, my next best
anything.
tight end, I think 89 out of 99 potential is Michael Trigg, and I've got him at 143. I've got him just outside the 4th round, and all the Niners picks are in the 4th round outside of the 1st and 2nd round picks.
Yeah.
They've got like 4 4th round picks, and that's their draft.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they moved out of round 4 and got more picks for the later rounds. I think they're going to pick
wouldn't doubt it.
round 4, and they're probably going to move down to try and get more picks later in the draft.
Well, that's why they're hanging on to Brandon Ayuk, you know, maybe get a 6th or 7th out of it or something along those lines, you know. And,
Yeah, I can guarantee you if they pick Denzel Boston in round 1, they're going to move Ayuk on day 2 or day 3 of the draft
yeah.
for a return.
See, that's who that's kind of who I'm hoping that I'm gonna buck the trend here when it comes to the Steelers, because of course the Steelers are gonna take offensive line, defensive line in their first 2 picks right off the bat. And I really think they should use their 1st round pick to take a wide receiver. And that Boston guy comes to mind as who I would really like for them to pick.
Elijah Surratt in round 1. I gave them a left guard in round 2, and I doubled up at safety in round 3.
You see, right? Even Chris is like, yeah, offensive. See, look, I really think you need to get
a receiver. You've got 3 receivers under contract till 2030. You've got Metcalf, you've got Pittman, and you've got your 1st round pick all on Pittsburgh under a rookie contract. It feels like anyone at quarterback.
Well, let me tell you something, okay? Roman Wilson was pretty much a wasted draft pick. Okay, that didn't even really can't even play special teams. Right? So, and Pittman is the only one that has any kind of decent production, consistent production. Let me ask you a question. How many wide receiver 1s do you know that play in the league in the last 3 years, okay, that drop 4 to 5 balls a game? How many do you know? Okay, right? So then you bring along DK Metcalf, you give him $139 million for 4 freaking years. Right? Yeah.
I did not know.
And dude drops 4 to 5 balls every game. Every game. So Pittman, now the last 3 years that he played with Indianapolis, played in all 17 games, right? Had double-digit touchdowns, had 1,000 yards, had 80 to 100 catches, for the season. That's good production. I'll take that all day. But Pittsburgh hasn't had an offensive coordinator that knows how to use a quarterback to throw to anybody.
Yeah.
So
I still remember Matt Canada.
I mean,
that was
So
it was ugly. I mean, when I went to the Penguins Stars game a few years ago in Pittsburgh, there were Pens fans chanting "Fire Canada" when the Stars went up by 2 goals against the Penguins. They're chanting "Fire the offensive coordinator" at the hockey game.
And when Tomlin stepped down, they fired all of his coaches. They fired. They didn't want to keep a single one. Not a single one. Now, what does that tell you? Right? Yeah. I mean, come on. I'm not an idiot here.
That's kind of what the Niners did with Ayuk and Debo and Jawan Jennings. They just said kind of get the hell out of here, and went and hired a couple of professionals, Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, to rebuild that room, because it was such a mess. Everyone was talking about, Purdy's supporting cast. It's like, did he have a top 25 receiver? No. Did he have a top 50 receiver? I mean, was Debo really a wide receiver? You know, I mean, he kind of lined up everywhere, you know, and it was one of those things where that room was getting to the point, you know, every year one of the wide receivers was begging for money. You know, Jawan Jennings, you know, bitched about it, you know, a couple of years ago, ended up getting a little bit of a raise, whatever it was, and then you know he wants more, and then he wants more, and finally, you know, I said this 2 years ago. I said that whole group needs to get out of here, you know, and it finally happened, you know, and I think Mike Shanahan's life is going to be a lot easier. I think my life is going to be a lot easier, you know, and that's one
Well,
of
your
the
stress
reasons.
levels are going to be a little better.
Yeah, you know, but that's one thing about Denzel Boston is I love his attitude, you know, but he's always John with somebody. He's always he's got that almost like he's gonna, you know, flip that switch and turn into a diva instead of, you know, a badass like he is.
Like,
And
if we were doing a wide receiver rankings, most likely to become the Antonio Brown of this draft, I would probably put Denzel Boston one. I
well,
mean,
I'm just saying, no, he is most definitely talented. He is
he's
most
talented
definitely
enough to be a
talented.
wide receiver one.
Yeah, he
The
is.
thing that irritates me, and it's a pet peeve. It's a tiny pet peeve, but it's probably a bigger pet peeve for coaches than you'd think. But when Washington was trailing Maryland 20-3, and he scores a touchdown to get Washington back in the game, he's talking smack. He's celebrating, and he's talking smack, saying the defense can't cover me. You're down by 11 points. If you want to do that after you pull off a comeback, that's one thing. But if you do that in that context, that rubs some people the wrong way because you got to fight to get those points to get back in the game and lead your team to a win.
Yep, exactly.
Great points, man. Great points.
It's like just shut up. You know, I mean, I saw him jawing with so many cornerbacks after nothing. You know, he's just sitting there doing this number the whole time, and it's like, dude, you know, I mean, Shanahan's going to see Ayuk and Debo all over again, and I don't think he's going to go that route. You know, but obviously, I like Chris Brazel. I like Casey Concepcion. I like, you know, Skylar Bell. These guys are, you know, something that I feel can step in. Skylar Bell, especially, you know,
Yeah,
I
I've got Skylar Bell. Like all the round two receivers, I wanted to wait for Conception to drop because I've got Conception at like 54 on my big board. I've got Skylar Bell at like 60 or 61 on our draft simulator. But it's like you look at all the teams that need receivers in round two, William. You're looking at the Colts, probably going to draft a receiver. You're looking at the Dolphins. They might draft two receivers early in this draft. And if they both struggle, they can always get a receiver in 2027 and move one of the guys to the slot. But it's like the Dolphins, I think, will probably get a receiver, and I'm looking at but I'm looking at I think all those receivers I had round two grades on will come
man,
off the board relatively early because
there's
I've
so
got
many that can sneak up there. I was putting together a
I've
list.
got
It's like,
Brazel on the Chiefs at 40. That's my wide receiver 6. And then I've got Conception on the Dolphins at 42 or 43. And then after that, I've got the Colts taking Skylar Bell at 47. So
Wow.
I only have 3 second-round wide receivers. But I have 4 second-round wide receivers, including Denzel Boston. But I think 5 receivers are going to get picked in the first round. So that's going to
Yeah.
drive the
Yeah.
value
Yeah.
of the receivers up or down depending on what happens.
yeah,
I've got around 4 grade on Omar Cooper Jr., but I do think he's going to get picked. If he doesn't get picked on day 1, I do think he's going to get picked on day 2.
Cool.
yeah, you know, well, Omar Cooper, he's a guy, you know, I was pretty critical on him at first for being, you know, body catching, you know, whatever kind of line up wherever. But, you know, it was that whole Indiana offense was like what we were talking about, watching the guys when they're not getting the ball. And when they were getting the ball, so many of those plays were decided in the huddle, you know, drawn up in the dirt. You know, they said, oh, this play's called in. So, you know, Doza and whoever it was, Surratt or Cooper, you know, did their thing. And then whoever it was would be running, Mach 3, doing all their stuff, and the other side was kind of a question mark. And I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like, man, there wasn't a lot of consistent timing in that offense. There wasn't a lot of complex things. I mean, obviously, when a third of the league, fires their coaches and Signetti's not getting mentioned anywhere, it's pretty obvious what's going on. He's a college coach. And that's the thing, with Doza, I really question that. What is going on, or what is going to happen with him? Brady obviously, stepping in and taking a little bit of control, like you said, this last year. And it's like, you're going to have to develop this guy for a year at least. I mean, Brady is sitting there talking about how they're not developing quarterbacks anymore, and he sat there at Michigan for 4 years, taking snaps and getting cadences down and getting, plays down and all of that stuff. But, I mean, that was so much of it was missing when it came to Indiana, and when Heisman Trophy winner, throws what 33 touchdowns during the regular season, it and he's throwing, go routes and post routes and just, really, really simple things, it's like, where is this going to happen, and why would Tom Brady, sign off on that? But it's like everyone, the media and everyone already decided that, he's the number one pick. And I think that is a very big mistake, so.
Wow. Wow. I I am I have never liked picking a quarterback in as the number one pick ever.
Ever.
Um, it's only ever worked out a very handful of times. You know what I mean? For teams that pick a quarterback like first overall or second overall or third overall, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, this is the guaranteed guy. This is the guaranteed guy." And I've seen so many guaranteed guys that you never even hear about after the first 2 or 3 years, right? So, but I want to kind of circle back around to Kenyon. His his analytics don't necessarily give him the best outlook. I mean, he's only projected to potentially be a starter after a year or two, and being just a starter after a year or two, you want to take him in the first round, and you're going to take him in the first, and you're going to have to wait a year or two for him to even be a starter. I don't care how good blocking you are.
Well, that's the thing, I mean, they have simplified the offenses so much lately, even the tight ends are catching up, and they're usually left out of everything, I mean, to where you're having these guys come out. Obviously, Brock Bowers was just talented as hell in the first place, and was going to get out there. But then you got Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren, and I mean, they usually it takes 3 years for a tight end to show you who they are,
Yeah.
show you that they can play, and it's obviously one of the most difficult positions that there is, and they have to do everything a left tackle does and everything a wide receiver does, and they get paid half as much. I mean, with the positional value, it's kind of crazy. It's down there with middle linebackers and things like that. I mean, there's some very good middle linebackers in this draft. C.J. Allen, Anthony Hill. I mean, even down to players like Bryce Botcher. Of course, Chris is like
I got him at 101. I think he's got a high ceiling, but it's like I've got 100 players better than him on my board. So a lot of it comes down to fit, and it comes down to a need. There's multiple factors in play here.
Very much.
And I think he's a pure Mike linebacker. That's what the tape has shown me.
Yeah.
He's a very good one.
Yeah. He squares up on people. And when I was watching CJ Allen's film, man, oh wow. It was like that dude just ultra athletic. And as soon as he had the play diagnosed, I mean, that's just it was over.
Yeah, but
and
CJ Allen doesn't pressure the quarterback. He only plays the run and drops back into coverage. I think Anthony Hill Jr. does all three of those things at a high level. That's why I've still got him in my top 10. I've been promoting Anthony Hill Jr. like crazy since August, saying this is a top 10 talent. I still feel that way. He may end up falling to 31. He may fall to the second round, but whoever gets Anthony Hill Jr. is getting a steal. It seems Daniel Kelly agrees with me on that much.
Yeah.
For sure, man. So, but I'll tell you what, I'm actually very excited to talk about the tight ends next week. You know what I mean? I am very excited about that because right,
I'm working on a 7-round draft. I don't know when I'll be able to promote it on a podcast because I know I'm not even sure we're going to do a show Saturday because I know Ron's got plans. Joey's being called Walmart, and it's like if I'm going to go through every pick in the mock draft, not just the first 3 rounds, I do a show where I go through every single pick. I'm best to do that during the week of the draft or whenever I finish this versus late. Like right now, we're still going to have 3 shows. We're still going to have an NBA and an NHL playoff show, but those shows are probably going to be around like 12:30 a.m. with Emmanuel Watson, who does like a TikTok feed after. Because I know we're going to do the NHL one tonight. We're probably going to break down the NBA games again tomorrow. We already broke down what a post-play-in round yesterday. So, yeah. So we'll probably have those shows.
Awesome, man.
And then I don't know.
Second season starts on the 18th, so hockey playoffs. So here we go.
Hockey playoffs. I've got 3 upsets for round 1. I'm not going to give you the full scoop, but I have got 3 upsets. I like Montreal over Tampa. I like Utah over Vegas. And give me Ottawa over Carolina. Ottawa's 3 lines of defense are really good, and they have 1,100 hits to Carolina's 928. They also lead, that's blocked shots, by the way. They also have more hits than Carolina. If Ullmark can outplay the goalie for Carolina, I think Ottawa wins the series in 6 games. But here's the thing. Ottawa's a bottom 4 team in penalty killing, and both Carolina and Ottawa are in the top 10 in penalty killing. So you're going to have to play smart, avoid penalties to win that series, I think, Ron.
I like Carolina. I like Vegas. On my upset is I think that Philly might potentially beat Pittsburgh, but I doubt it. But that's a possibility.
I think that's the toughest series to pick, Ron. Be completely real with you. Because I think the Flyers are the hotter team. They have the younger team on paper. They have the more experienced coach, but Pittsburgh still has those core guys. And I can't see them losing this series with home ice and with everything on the line.
Nope. So, nope. I mean, it would be nice. It'd be a nice story, but I don't think so.
I would love to see your Flyers beat the Penguins. And
me too, but I don't think so.
But I just don't think it's in the cards.
I don't think so either. No, I wouldn't put any money on the Flyers winning. But man, I'll tell you what, I'll be screaming and cheering if they do, right? You know what I'm saying?
Only way the Hurricanes make the Eastern Conference Finals is if they draw the Flyers and they beat Ottawa. That's their path to the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, I'm not saying they can't get there. I feel like they only have one good defenseman in Slavin, and the other 5 guys just aren't as good as what they've had the past few years. But that may not matter if the goaltending's up to par. And the penalty killing and the special teams just continues to dominate for the Hurricanes. That may not matter. They got home ice throughout the Eastern Conference.
Yep. So there
And
you
if
go.
they play Dallas in the Cup instead of Colorado, they would have home ice in the Stanley Cup. So they have the second best
man.
league. So if they draw anyone but Colorado, they get home ice, even against Dallas. So yeah,
For sure. Hey, listen, I want to say this. Thank you all very much for hopping on here to Under the Bleachers, man. This is great. This is super fun. I love being on here with Chris and William, man. These guys are the cat's meow here when it comes to all things draft and all things under the bleachers, for sure, for sure. Be sure to check those guys out. Hop on over to the draftutopia.com site. Hop on over to the Facebook page there for Under the Bleachers and get yourself subscribed to that for sure, so you can get notified when we have all these great shows, man. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Chris, and thank you, William, for having me on here, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, man. And thanks everyone for watching, and putting up with our crap,
Our therapy sessions.
One more thing before we sign off. One more before we currently leads Nashville 3-2. If Anaheim wins that game, they will play Edmonton, and the LA Kings will be going to Colorado for the playoffs. So the Avalanche, William, they get to put Anze Kopitar in a retirement home this year, unless the Kings pull off a historic upset, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
yeah, right.
He's going to put Kopitar in a retirement home. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, LA Kings fans. I'm sorry to say, but McKinnon's putting Kopitar in a retirement home. And Kopitar has more cups. We're not denying it. The LA Kings won in 2012.
He was going to retire anyway. Right? He was going to retire anyway, so.
But yeah, McKinnon's going to put him in retirement home. Yeah. But yes, that's that. And we'll have more hockey updates. I will in about 3 hours, but I'm going to get something to eat. William's got to get out of here. Ron's got plans for tomorrow, and we will have an NFL draft show, but it's to be determined. I'm not going to schedule it on TalkShoe yet because I feel like if we were to schedule a show on Saturday morning, William, you'd probably agree with me. It'd be more fun if we had either Ron or Joey on. So I might postpone the draft special to either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what Joey's schedule is next week. I haven't made a decision yet, but I am going to do a pre-draft show. I am going to do a pre-draft show next week. I'm going to do a pre-draft show next week. It'll be either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I got to get times for when you guys are available, though, and get the logistics hammered. But okay. I'm going to give you this because you're going to need the rest for next week during draft week, William. So we are going to have this Saturday off.
Draft week. It's Christmas and the New Year. I mean, all over again. And
yeah, well, so I won't be doing a podcast on Saturday morning, but we are going to do one for Draft Utopia before Thursday's draft. The date hasn't been decided yet. I'm going to talk to Joey. I want to talk with you, and I want to figure out what's the best time logistically if we do a pre-draft show next week.
Sounds good, man.
Everyone watching.
The NBA and NHL editions of Draft Utopia will be tonight, tomorrow at 12:30 a.m. So, all right, we'll sign off. And Under the Bleachers, part 3 of Ice versus Turf. I'm not sure if that'll be next week, but I was thinking a goalie and a quarterback, the 2 men under center who have the strongest influence on their team's ability to win or lose games.
There you go. I like that too.
I think we'll continue with that after next week,
or maybe we can put the trilogy off until next week, until after the draft. The trilogy. We'll basically make our audience wait 2 weeks for the trilogy with the draft next Thursday night.
Oh well, they'll be all right.
No, really, we could start scouting a 2027 QB next. After we do this after the draft, we could start scouting 2027 QB, and then we could put Trage Ball, the top goalie in the 26 NHL draft.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I saw him in person. Good, you did too, Ron.
Yeah, man.
He's good.
He's good. He really is good. And how you doing? Like, he's big too, right? He's tall.
Like, if he fell to the Stars in round 2, I think I would pick him, even though we have Ottinger, even though we have DeSmith, even though we have Remy Poirier on a rookie deal still, even though we have Arnaud. I think I would pick him simply because his NHL rookie if he goes to college for 3 to 4 years, his NHL rookie contract wouldn't be up until 2032.
Right.
And by the time Ottinger's contract's up, you might be able to get Trage Ball on a cheaper deal, especially if he blossoms.
Exactly. So.
Yep. Well,
All right,
join us
fellas.
next week for tight ends right before the draft. My rankings, my final rankings will be out, and I'm definitely excited for it. Like I said, hopefully my Niners can snag one somewhere, and or whatever they end up doing. You know, I mean, Tonjes, you know, he's a receiver, and Kittle isn't going to be ready for a minute, so I think they definitely need to get one because the last guy, you know, that they put out there in the playoffs after Kittle got hurt, you know, was out there just getting in the way because he hadn't caught a pass
I
since
agree. They need to get one.
2021.
I just don't know where they can get one without
Yeah,
reaching. That's the problem, and it's a
that's the
very
thing
big problem.
with
You could
all the needs
You could get
that they have.
Stowers at 27. That wouldn't be a reach. But if you miss out on Stowers, who do you get without reaching for the position? That's the problem.
Exactly. So
I do like Michael Trigg a bit, and he'd probably fit in there somewhere in the fourth, maybe.
If you can get a third this year and a third next year for your second round pick, I almost feel like you have to move down because you could get the tight end with a third round pick, and then you'd have another pick for next year's class, which is supposed to be better than this one. But yeah.
Yep, and we'll see about all that.
Yep.
see you guys.
Thanks for joining us, guys.